And so the first season of Rusty Davies's revived Doctor Who comes to a close. If you ask me, it's the second best season of the show that Davies has produced, closely followed by Series 4. Okay, the series does contain a few clunkers. It doesn't contain the highest concentration of enjoyable episodes, but I do think the first year has a much clearer direction and purpose than many of the years that followed. Although apparently Christopher Eccleston's departure was only decided after the show went into production, the first season seems like it constantly is building up to the death of the Doctor. The entire first season seems to build, logically and rationally, towards that moment, and man does it pay off superbly. Aside from the fact that the inevitable bad wolf kills this incarnation of the Doctor, the narrative cheat also feels justified because it doesn't seem to handily reset everything. It doesn't seem to wash away the consequences of the Dalek attack on Earth, even if we'll never likely see them again. It might have resurrected Jack, but there's no indication that the millions of people dead on Earth might have been revived, or even that those who fought on the station have been restored. For me, it just helps that this episode has considerable impact, not just when it was broadcast in 2005, but in contrast, in 2019. The Parting of the Ways might just be the most thoughtful and clever examination of the relationship between the Doctor and the Daleks ever presented. The dialogue that runs through the episode between the Doctor and the God Emperor does an excellent job of illustrating how the two play off one another so well, and just why the Doctor and the Daleks find themselves so alien to one another. Explaining the situation to the Doctor, the God Emperor observes, "We waited here in the dark space, damaged but rebuilding. Centuries passed, and we quietly infiltrated the systems of our Earth, harvesting the waste of humanity. The prisoners, the refugees, the dispossessed, all came to us." This immediately contrasts the Daleks against the Doctor in methods, objective, and philosophy. My favourite scene of the entire episode has to be when the Doctor goes to the Dalek saucer at the beginning of the episode and initially just faces some Daleks. My God, does Eccleston kill it from the start, exuding his authority over the situation and referencing how he is the oncoming storm to them. It's simple stuff, but it's just so effective. And then we get that spine-tingling reveal of the Emperor, with the booming voice dominating the screen.
No good stood round here chin-wagging. Human race should gossip all day. Daleks have got the answers. Let's go meet the neighbours.
You can't go out there!
Is that it? Useless. Null point. It's all right, come on out. That force field can hold back anything.
Almost anything.
Yes, but I wasn't going to tell him that, thanks.
Sorry.
Do you know what they call me in the ancient legends of the Dalek homeworld? The oncoming storm. You might have removed all your emotions, but I reckon right down deep in your DNA there's one little spark left. And that's fear. Doesn't it just burn when you face me? So tell me, how did you survive the Time War?
They survived through me.
Can I say, the entire scene that follows this just has to be my favourite piece of acting from Eccleston all series. I've said it all series, but he has been magnificent. But here against the most formidable of opponents, he seems to step it up a notch once again, even demonstrating his underlying anger at one stage, which had me speechless on a first view, and still does to this day. Eccleston is able to do the angry, confused, curious, and yet extremely terrified all within a couple of minutes, which just works, and I don't believe it's been matched or exceeded to this day. This has to be my favourite Ninth Doctor scene by a country mile, in a series where moments like this have come in their dozens.
Rose, Captain, this is the Emperor of the Daleks.
You destroyed us, Doctor. The Dalek race died in your inferno, but my ship survived, falling through time, crippled but alive.
I get it.
Do not interrupt! Do not interrupt! Do not interrupt!
I think you're forgetting something. I'm the Doctor, and if there's one thing I can do, it's talk. I've got 5 billion languages, and you haven't got one way of stopping me. So if anybody's going to shut up, it's you!
In stark contrast to the Daleks who skulked around in silence, the Doctor arrives noisily, declaring himself. He fights for the prisoners, the refugees, and the dispossessed, representing those neglected or abused by the system, while the Daleks merely fed upon them. While the God Emperor believes that only 1 cent in a billion deserved attention, the Doctor is willing to believe the absolute best of anybody, and yet despite that there's a hint of recognition between both the Doctor and the Daleks. Recognising the sacrifices these Daleks have had to make in order to survive, the Doctor observes that these compromises have taken their toll. You hate your own existence. Of course, the Doctor knows a thing or two about having to compromise in order to survive, and it seems like the Ninth Doctor has spent his entire existence living in the shadow of the Time War, feeling responsible and guilty for the bloodshed, atrocities and genocides that were all on his hands. There is a certain amount of self-loathing to be found in the Ninth Doctor, bubbling beneath the surface. It's part of what makes him seem so much more vulnerable than most of his predecessors, excluding Davison, of course. So when he sees the Daleks are having their own difficulties with the price they paid in order to survive, there's a hint that he can almost empathise with them. It's actually handled with a great deal more subtlety than the comparisons made in Dalek, and I think that's to Davies' credit. Indeed, the Doctor's central plotline in The Parting of the Ways sees him forced to confront the similarities between himself and the Daleks, just like in Dalek. In a way, it recreates the end of the Time War, with the Doctor forced into a situation where he could commit genocide in order to stop the Daleks. It wouldn't be until the Satan Pit that we actually discover that the Doctor had been forced to kill his own people, but it is heavily implied here. The Ninth Doctor is forced into a situation where he must stop the Daleks by killing not only the enemy fleet, but every living creature on Earth as well. As the God Emperor explains, there is every possibility that the Delta Wave could be complete, but no possibility of refining it. The Delta Wave must kill everything in its path, with no distinction between human and Dalek. Rubbing salt in the wound, the creature taunts, "Hail the Doctor, the great exterminator." It feels like a full circle for the Ninth Doctor and the end of his character arc in this episode. That's why the regeneration at the end of The Parting of the Ways works so well. Indeed, I'd hate to imagine what this episode might have looked like had Eccleston stayed on for a second year. The Ninth Doctor was born with blood on his hands, and a lot of his actions throughout the series are governed by the simple fact. On his first trip with Rose, he took her to watch the world die in the end of the world. On the next adventure, the Gelth exploited the survivor's guilt to trick him into building them a bridgehead. The Parting of the Ways is the ultimate expression of that, the Doctor dealing once and for all with the responsibility that he carries, and deciding whether he will allow it to happen all again. That's why this is such a great Dalek episode. Sure, the Daleks have shown us a lot more menacing than they have been in a long time, and arguably more effective than they would be in any subsequent episode. However, the Parting of the Ways accepts their destruction of Earth as a foregone conclusion. There's nothing that the Doctor can do to save the planet below, which does a great deal to make them seem scary once again. More than that, though, the primary conflict between the Doctor and the Dalek isn't one of wits or strength. It's a philosophical conflict. What makes the Dalek threat so effective in The Parting of the Ways is the fact that the Daleks have a win-win situation. If the Doctor does nothing, they conquer the universe. That's an easy win. However, if the Doctor stops them, they die, but they gain the moral victory. You really want to think about this? The Doctor warns them. Because if I activate the signal, every living creature dies. The God Emperor responds, "I am immortal." The Doctor therefore calls his bluff. "Do you want me to put that to the test?" And then the Dalek Emperor drops the ultimate bombshell. "I want to see you become like me." No matter what the Doctor does, he loses. It helps that Davies' interpretation of the Daleks here is the best that they have been in quite a while. He reimagines a rogue Dalek manufactured from human flesh, one that has been driven insane by centuries, by hiding in darkness. In that time, it seems, the Daleks have changed themselves. Terry Nation created the Daleks to stand in for fascists, and Davies stays relatively true to that concept. However, he updates it significantly by adding one element to the mix, religion, which just adds another layer to an already intriguing species. Nation was inspired by the Nazis to create the Daleks with their eugenics and their ideals of racial purity. Here the Daleks have become religious fascists, hate-spewing monsters vindicated by their own sense of righteousness. Surviving the Doctor's inferno, the Emperor has named himself God. "Do not blaspheme," the Daleks chant, one of the most disturbing moments of the revived series, even to this day. It's a bold moment because it seems at odds with decades of characterization, but it still works. The ideas of intolerance and purity are very disturbing ideas in any era, and the Daleks are recontextualized as a science fiction version of the religious extremists. Fanatics and raving lunatics who hold terrifying ideas and are convinced in their own pious righteousness. "I reached into the dirt and made new life," the God Emperor declares. "I am the God of all Daleks." Later he commands, "Purify the earth with fire. The planet will become my temple and we shall rise. This will be our paradise." It's just simply great stuff from RTD once again, and makes the Daleks that bit more convincing to a new audience. However, one scene that is always a set to pull on the old heartstrings is when the Doctor sends Rose home. It's simply spectacular stuff from Eccleston once again. He is able to portray more emotion with a simple facial expression than some actors could be able to dream of, with engaging dialogue. And then, when he appears as a hologram in the TARDIS, it's such an effective way of saying goodbye to Rose, or what we knew at this point, without her being able to object, and really just demonstrates Eccleston's acting range, as he's able to shine here in the more quieter moments, as well as those involving way more action. The Parting of the Ways certainly doesn't disappoint, opening with the rescue of Rose and not stopping from there. It's an energetic, fast-paced episode which leaves room for character moments and cracking dialogue. The episode is full of peripheral characters who have a function and are well-rounded, and it features a cocksure doctor who seems in charge, but just covering up for how deep in trouble he really is. By the end of the episode, the emotional stakes are raised and the Ninth Doctor reveals himself. When asked if he is a coward or killer, he replies, "Coward, any day." And that is the Doctor, right there. Even though I knew Barrowman would be coming back the following year for Torchwood, it was still a shock to see Jack get exterminated by the Daleks, although I had to wonder why it took them so long to decide to do so. And poor Jack ends up doing a Tegan, although in his case, at least he has the "they thought I was dead" excuse. His farewell scene with the Doctor and Rose is great, and Barrowman also gets a couple of really funny scenes once again. First with his not uneager attitudes towards being naked in front of millions of television viewers, and then his retrieval of the Compact Laser Deluxe from areas unseen. It's the sort of thing that makes me roll my eyes and groan, but somehow it still works. Maybe it's because it seems relatively true to Jack's character, but I think a lot of it is the way that Barrowman plays him. Excellent stuff. Director Joe Hahn does an excellent job directing both parts of this, earning a well-deserved BAFTA nomination for his work on the show. It's a shame he was never invited back after this. Bad Wolf is a superb first part to the two-part season finale, and I'd argue that it's easily one of the best two-parters that Russell T Davies has ever wrote on his time during the series, especially in this second part. Another mention must also go to the fabulous Nicholas Briggs as the voice of the Daleks, who not only does a great job voicing the Daleks themselves, but absolutely kills it with the voice of the Dalek Emperor. He not only manages to make the Emperor even more menacing than his standard Dalek, but he makes it a bit further removed, which is totally effective, as it then clearly identifies it as a higher authority and an extremely dangerous entity. Not only is the voice a different kettle of fish, it is almost like a different voice entirely, and for that I will always credit Briggs's excellent work. I must also give massive credit to the work of Murray Gold here once again, as not only has he been excellent all throughout the series, but here in the finale it is evident how talented a composer he really is. Without his magnificent score in this episode, it would have removed the magnitude of the emotion present in RTD's script. But with such music present, the on-screen action is exemplified tenfold. Although we get to see the extent of his excellence, here in the first series of composing he certainly impresses and totally makes his mark on the new incarnation of the series. It turns out that the titular parting of the episode is between Rose and the Ninth Doctor, but she survives, and it's the Ninth Doctor that moves on. That moment that introduces the modern audience to regeneration is beautifully realised. The Doctor absorbs the TARDIS energy off Rose and the Bad Wolf, as she wishes to be identified in the form, before it consumes her, therefore bringing on to the first regeneration of the modern era. Here, Rose gets to save the day, completing her journey from shop girl to universal hero. It's a satisfying conclusion to Rose's character arc over the past 13 episodes, but it creates one sizable problem for the next year of the show. Rose has effectively completed her development. Saving the Doctor and wiping out the Daleks is pretty much the high point of any companion's character arc, but yet she continues into Series 2. Rose has really learned all she needs from the Doctor at this point, and there's nothing else for her character to really do, which leads to my biggest problem with the second series, the fact that Rose has nowhere to go for most of it. Part of that is due to the radical restructuring caused by Billie Piper's decision to stay. Part of it is due to the fact that her character development really came to a halt in the Parting of the Ways. We have to spend a year with a very smug and very arrogant companion who doesn't play to the 10th Doctor's strengths, but that's for another time. Arguably, Eccleston's regeneration is still one of the very best, not just in the modern series, but in the entirety of the show, and here's why. It indeed introduces and explains the concept to the modern audience, who might have been unfamiliar, and therefore is an excellent inclusion in the first series. However much I wish we could have had more of 9. But the best thing for me about Eccleston's regeneration is the fact that he embraces it and isn't distraught about the process, like a certain someone is later on. Eccleston's performance in the regeneration is that of perfection, and always manages to bring a tear to my eye, which is persona, finally taking the full turn from the beginning of the series. By rediscovering the universe and being able to be the Doctor once again, he's ready to put the past behind him and wander into a new incarnation full of joy and without as much angst. And that final line, simply excellent from RTD. So good, in fact, it was my quote from my college yearbook. Nevertheless, Eccleston's conviction of the lines makes you believe in what he says and reassures the audience whilst reassuring Rose that we were fantastic, and so was he, and most importantly that there are journeys still to come. Trip of our lifetime. It's still a damn fine piece of television to this day, and a fitting conclusion to the Night Doctor's tenure. Christopher Eccleston, I salute you. Thank you for the memories. You were simply fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
There was this singing.
That's right. I sang a song and the Daleks ran away.
I was at home. No, I wasn't. I was in the TARDIS, and there was this light. I can't remember anything else.
Rose Tyler. I was going to take you to so many places. Barcelona? Not the city, Barcelona. The planet, Barcelona. You'd love it. Fantastic place. They've got dogs with no noses. Imagine how many times a day you end up telling that joke, and it's still funny.
Then why can't we go?
Maybe you will, and maybe I will. But not like this.
You're not making sense.
I might never make sense again. I might have two heads, or no head. Imagine me with no head. And don't say that's an improvement. But it's a bit dodgy, this process. You never know what you're going to end up with. Stay away!
Doctor, tell me what's going on.
I absorbed all the energy of the time vortex, and no one's meant to do that. Every cell in my body's dying.
Can't you do something?
Yeah, I'm doing it now. Time Lords have this little trick. It's sort of a way of cheating death. Except it means I'm going to change. And I'm not going to see you again. Not like this. Not with this daft old face. And before I go...
Don't say that.
Rose. Before I go, I just want to tell you you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I.
Hello. Okay. New teeth. That's weird. So where was I? Oh, that's right. Barcelona.
And here goes. The magnificent new regeneration sound and visual effects begin to burn, an excellent reimagination of the age-long process. And here we are. A warm welcome to the 10th Doctor, Mr. David Tennant. Overall, I simply cannot praise Eccleston's swan song anymore, and for me, this is still up there one of the best finales we've ever received in the new series. Therefore, I give Bad Wolf an 8 out of 10, and The Parting of the Ways a 9 out of 10.